Welcome.
Hey,
we
welcome
are not professional
to
podcasters.
Ashes to Rubies.
You never know what's going
You
on.
never know what's going on in our home. Usually there's nothing, but today you never know.
So if you stumbled across this, hello and good morning and welcome.
Good morning, friends. It's Monday morning.
We're going to have a little recovery morning devo.
We do a little morning recovery devo. And, sometimes life hacks are amazing. And usually, when you go down that rabbit hole of YouTube, life hacks. So my friend Karen gave me a life hack on the weekend.
Okay.
You know what it is?
No.
So I have found labeling. Labeling has gone to new measures. And I think they do this on purpose where they put the labeling and the directions and the contents and the nutrition facts, the ingredients so small that you can't see it. So you just make the purchase anyway. You can't really read it. Life hack. Are you laughing because you think it's my eyes and it's not the packagers?
Because you're an old blind
I think it's
man.
the packagers.
Okay.
That's what I'm choosing to believe today. She said, take a picture with your phone and then zoom in.
Rocked your world.
No, I couldn't even believe it. Why are you looking at me?
You got a little fluff.
That
is a genius life hack.
That is a life hack.
I've never done that. I've done something similar when you're traveling and you don't know where you're going or you don't want to get lost or you parked.
Put breadcrumbs down.
You parked somewhere and you don't want to forget where you parked.
Take a picture.
You take a picture.
With your phone.
With your phone.
Or your camera.
Yeah. And same with your parking ticket.
Do you think camera sales have drastically reduced due to cameras on cell phones? Yeah. No one really
except for actual photographers. But I do
They're
think that being
real photographers.
Being an actual photographer is actually more attainable now though. Because anybody can take up photography course.
I know. I think it's offensive to real photographers because anybody could be a doctor too because of Google and YouTube. We could all be doctors.
So we're gonna do a reading.
You had a life hack, and we didn't finish unpacking it, and I'm confused by it, but at the same time, I need to know more. And so you are journaling, like many people are a journaler, and you're left-handed, just like me. We are blessed to be left-handed. Very few of us are, and we are. And so I just write like a person would write. You write like maybe an Egyptian, a Roman. You still use the same words and letters, but you write upside down. So you're going up, right?
No.
You're turning everything around and you're writing in.
No, I just turn my book sideways. That's
so
all.
I turn
my book sideways and I write.
So I don't turn my book sideways. So yes, you're writing up and down. I'm writing left
so that
right.
My hand is below where I'm writing so that I don't drag my hand.
Left hand problems. So then you were suggesting, you just were telling me that you need spiral bound journals.
Yeah.
I don't know why still.
Because then my page lays flat and then I can write correctly.
So then are you writing only on one side?
No, I can write on both sides.
And so then the spiral you go in between the spiral.
Makes the paper lay completely flat so that.
You're like, this isn't like, did you do this? Is this your own thing or you figure this out? Somebody else said, have you ever tried this?
I've always turned my page, even in elementary school. I always turned my page and the teachers tried to correct it, but then they let me be.
I heard in the old days, like my grandma's days, if you were left-handed, it was a sign of the devil was in you and they whip it.
No one cares about that anymore.
Out.
Yeah.
They force you not to be left-handed.
Not anymore.
No, it's a blessing, not a curse. All right. So let's get into our morning devotional part of our conversation. Grab your coffee, wash your hands, and sit tight. What have we got today?
Today, our reading is on surrender. Made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. Step 3 of Al-Anon. That's step 3 of the Alcoholics Anonymous Big Book also. Surrendering to a power greater than ourselves is how we become empowered. We become empowered in a new, better, more effective way than we believed possible. Doors open, windows open, possibilities occur. Our energy becomes channeled at last in areas and ways that work for us. We become in tune with the plan for our life and our place in the world. There is a plan and place for us. We shall see that. We shall know that. The world will open up and make a special place for us and with all that we need provided. It will be good. Understand that it is good now. Learning to own our power will come if we are open to it. We do not need to stop at powerlessness and helplessness. That is a temporary place where we reevaluate where we have been trying to have power when we have none. Once we surrender, it is time to become empowered. Let the power come naturally. It is there. It is ours. Today, I will be open to understanding what it means to own my power. I will accept powerlessness where I have no power, and I will also accept the power that is mine to receive.
Amen.
Amen.
So we're talking about the concept of surrender to a power greater than ourselves, because we have come under the assumption that we have no power in our lives. So what does that look like? Well, I don't have the power to get up and get to work on time because I'm super hungover. Could be the past. Or I don't have the power to make any proper decisions. When I want to go home, I stop at the bar, I stop at the pub. Or I don't even have the power to break off a relationship that is destroying my life. And so I've become powerless. We become powerless in addiction, and our lives are super unmanageable. So then we come into this concept of surrender, and we go with our hands up going, I have no power. My life is unmanageable. I need help.
And from my side, so from the codependent side, it would be, I have no power over the person in my life that I love that is out of control, the person that I love that, won't go to rehab, or this relationship that feels like it's, eating me from the inside out, and I'm obsessing, and I can't stop thinking, and then I can't fall asleep at night, and then I can't get up in the morning, and I can't not scream at my kids, and I can't,
So then if somebody's life is powerless, you're powerless to make decisions and choices. You're being run by addiction and relationships. How do you surrender?
I probably make a zillion decisions and choices, but I actually cannot follow through on any of them.
So then how do you get somebody to surrender? How do you, because we get calls all the time with people that their kids are in this state or their family's in this state and somebody's using. And so how do you guide somebody into coming under surrender, coming into the understanding that they can't and only the power of God can?
I don't know how I've successfully ever led someone to that place, but I know for me, I started going to groups because I felt so out of control. And when I went to those groups, I heard other people's stories, and I realized, I began to believe that there could be something else for my life. Mm-hmm. I actually began to believe that, okay, maybe if that worked for them, like maybe something could work for me. Mm-hmm. I think that that's the contagious nature of hope, is like when hope is placed in front of me, I can start to like see myself in that story and see myself in that possibility, and then really take it on and believe it like for myself. And so that's the tiny inkling of faith of like, actually, maybe, even just beginning to like ask that question of like, maybe. And so I think just being willing to share my story. And I think it's so funny because I think oftentimes in like with people who've come through really hard times or addiction or, come into recovery, we might get frustrated because they just seem to talk about themselves all the time. They're always telling their own story and like, oh, you're so self-centered. You're just talking about yourself all the time. But the reality is, we don't want to give advice because you need to figure it out for yourself. You have to figure out, are you actually hopeless? Like, are you actually like, is this actually, do you have no other option? Or do you think actually you could figure this out? Like, you've been trying for 25 years.
Yeah. So that's a really good train of thought, because it actually is releasing you from the responsibility of getting them to surrender. And what you're actually saying is, I need to build a line of transmission through my own story.
And I really try just to listen to people and let them talk, and, be available if they have questions, and then also ask them questions that maybe nobody else in their life is asking them, and so, and people have to find their own way. And, I don't actually have it figured out what other people should do.
It's really like, I get that picture, and there's this tension of surrender. And I think of like, if there's a person robbing a store and then the cops come in and he's actually caught and he has a gun and he's like scared he was trying to do something. He's trying to get his needs met through a burglary, and it's gone bad. And he's to this point where he either has to surrender or suffer the consequences of either getting shot or tasered or whatever it is. And then he has this, there's this time in there that there's this tension of like, in my mind, I have to decide what to do. And so typically a person would lay down the gun, get on the floor and surrender. And I think that's how I came into the program of recovery. But then what is interesting is that in our literature of recovery, it actually doesn't use the word surrender. It uses the word abandon, because surrender is kind of taking the choices out of it. Like, I have two choices. But when I come to abandon, and that's what we have to do on a daily basis, is abandoning our old thinking, our old belief systems, all of that stuff that has created my life out of my addiction. I have to abandon that building and get a new building. And so I think my surrender has to turn into the abandonment on all of that stuff and get a new life with this power of God. So God isn't fix my old life. It's not an add-on to my old life. It's total abandonment of my old life to get a new life. And so I think that's the transition of surrender. I think there's that transition of I come in a fearful state and I transition into a hopeless state because I actually see the scope of my problem. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right. I think the meditation for me today is thinking about meditating on surrender on a daily basis, like turning my will and my not coming to God with my problems, but going like what.
But I think we can't just stop at the word surrender, because that feels like to me, that feels like it feels, yeah, like the word surrender and even the word abandonment, like that's, the hope isn't in that. The reality is, like, I actually sucked at running my life and I needed a power greater than me to restore me to sanity. And so God actually comes in and says like, oh, you're done trying to figure it all out? Like, you gave it a good go. So here, let me help you. Let me give you some wisdom. Let me give you some guidance. And so I turn over every day to him. Like, I wake up in the morning and say like, okay, God, I don't know what to do about this situation. And then I just leave it. And then maybe sometime later in the day, I think like, I wonder, like, I could come. Yeah. Oh, and then and so then I begin to get wisdom that isn't mine. I begin to get a new intuitive way of like thinking about things. And for me, that's what happened. And that's what I think in this reading, doors begin to open, windows open, possibilities occur when I, abandon, and which means like just stop doing all my old ways of doing everything. I'm actually turning away from my old way of doing things and like my way of trying to figure things out. And I'm actually turning towards God and saying like, okay, God, like, I'm looking at you and I need you to get me out of this. And you give me wisdom.
Because there's nothing that you can do. So you're surrendering
strength
to your way. And then the process of recovery of the next steps is actually about, how do I die of self? How do I be rid of this?
And so it is full of hope. It's full of possibility. And it looks so scary at the beginning. It reminds me of when we first decided that we were tired of fighting about money. And we were so frustrated about fighting about money. Like, we were just fighting about money every single time. We constantly lived paycheck to paycheck to paycheck to paycheck. And we were constantly trying to figure out where the money went and why is the credit card at this? And how do you not have any money?
Good times.
We were so sick of that. It was scary to meet with someone and say like, hey, we actually have a problem.
We don't know what we're doing.
We don't know what we're doing. And we've been fighting about this. And someone said to us, like, we can actually help you with that. And here, let's have this like one, meeting, and we'll give you this spreadsheet and we'll give you this plan. And like, hey,
and we've implemented it for like 8 years or 10 years.
I feel like
it's such freedom in that. So when we surrender to another way that God has for us, then there's a new life. And so I think that's the point where a person has to get so sick of where they're at in life to be able to even surrender to even new ideas of that.
Mhm.
Some people need to go to a homeless shelter to go to rehab, but fortunately, you can do that from the comfort of your home as well. You don't have to be at a homeless shelter to go to rehab to surrender. Some of us do, but all right, we're out of time. Josh, how you doing?
Thanks for joining
Operations
us.
manager right behind the
Have
camera.
a great day.
Working away. Anything
gonna-
about surrender, Josh? You got any? You got a gold nugget? Still working on it? All right. It's a daily task. We will see you guys tomorrow. Have a great afternoon. Wash your hands and keep the peace and be of good behavior. Until next time.